Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another segment of Asaph Cafe. This is going to be a special Asaph Cafe because we're going to pay tribute to a man named Chuck Barris. And he was the creator of the original Gong Show.
Yes.
For the television audience that don't know the Gong Show, before there was The Voice and before there was American Idol, there was the Gong Show. Mm-hmm. And we are on the set of the actual Gong Show, which is very primitive in comparison. And before we pray, let me just get the synopsis going. Basically, they had musical acts that would appear on this show, similar to what Emmett and I are doing right here. And some of the acts were good, and some probably weren't as good.
Or just skits or funny things people would do that were so hilarious.
Comedy skits, and we're going to cover all that. But see, the thing is, the Gong Show was just a fun, simple show. And if you look behind me, the way this show was set up, if the stars liked you, they would give you points, like The Voice or American Idol. But if they didn't like you, they would take this big Chinese gong, and if you look on the right here, where Chuck Barris is standing, where the sign that says the Gong Show, they had this big gong, and it would go gong if they didn't like you.
Yeah.
So we're going to cover all that. We're going to talk about the history of the Gong Show. We're going to talk about Chuck Barris's other creations on television. But before we do, why don't you start us off?
Heavenly Father, bless our time and our food and our drink together, and bless the show in Jesus' name.
I'm in agreement. So this is going to be fun. So what I'm going to do for starters, let's do the song that they always played on the Gong Show.
Yeah, and Chuck Barris, before a commercial, if let's say there was Gene, the dancing machine, or just before a commercial, it would always it's just hilarious. After some ridiculous skit, and maybe the unknown comic would be there just
we'll cover him too.
I mean, you'd have to see it. But if it was, we're going to a commercial, folks, we'll be back, and Chuck Barris would do a dance like this,
And here was the song that they played on the show.
We'll be back with another commercial segment, and Chuck Barris would always dance like this, and so would the Gene, the dancing machine, and the unknown comic would be that these people be in the back talking to it. I can't describe it, folks, but it was absolutely hilarious, and then they would lead into a commercial, then come back. I mean, the 70s were a fun time, folks, before all the stuff that happened. It was a great show, folks.
I'll do it again. And then we'll talk further.
Oh man, that was a great show.
I know it.
And it was just hilarious. You come home from school or work and you can just enjoy that,
Yeah. But let's get more specific. Gene, the dancing machine, actually he was a stagehand for the NBC studio. And how he got famous, when they were doing the Gong Show originally, he wasn't on camera. He would entertain the guest when they went to a commercial break. And he was such a hit that Chuck Barris put him on the show. And then he became a bigger hit because what it was is when a guest got gonged, they'd take a big hook and put it around your body and take out stage. And then Gene would slide across and entertain people while they were sitting for the next act. And that's how he got his claim to fame. So he was known as Gene, the dancing machine, and they always played that song that I just played. And Chuck Barris would be doing all this
here.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
And it was so funny.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the stars in the background. On the far left of your screen, that was Artie Johnson. Now I don't know if you will know him. I don't know if the television audience will remember him. Artie Johnson was a famous comedian and an actor. And he's best known for a television show in the 60s called Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. And the humor that they had on that show catered to the hippie movement of the 60s is the best way to describe it. I mean, it was clean, silly humor, but like the backdrop had the floral decorations.
Oh, yes.
And, the whole hippie thing. And that was how that show was. And there were two hosts, if I remember, it was Dan Rowan and Dick Martin. They had two hosts of that show, and they did a lot of comedy skits on this Laugh-In show, and they had a lot of famous people like Liberace that would appear. Even the Reverend Billy Graham was on there doing a thing once, and it was funny because when Billy Graham was on there, he was saying a family that watches laughing needs to pray. And it was just funny. It was, you know, they were just clean humor, and I was surprised to see Mr. Graham on there, but they had him on there just to say that. And sometimes famous people would appear just for a moment to say hi or say some really funny thing. And it was just such a cute show.
Yeah, definitely.
Laughing. And a lot of people got famous on that show, like Goldie Hawn. I don't know if you would know her or not.
No, I don't.
Blonde hair actress, really attractive young actress in her time. Now you got to remember, this was like 50 years ago. So the people that are still alive now would be up in years now. But at that time, Rowan and Martin's Laughing was one of the most funniest shows of that era. And so, as I stated, Artie Johnson on the far left of the screen was one of the regulars on Rowan and Martin's Laughing. And he was a very, very funny comedian. And one of his most funny skits, he played this old man that would walk really slow, kind of like Tim Conway. He would walk really slow, and there would be this older lady sitting on the bench. She was a comedian. Her name was Ruth Buzzy was her name. And so they'd be all in costume, and she was an older lady. She'd be sitting there, and he'd walk up to her really slow and sit next to her. Hey, cutie, want a kiss? And she'd take her little purse, and she would bop him over it with it. It just that really fun kind of humor. And then he would pass out and fall over. But you had to be there.
Yep.
Now I know that the comedy that they had on that show by today's standards would be considered corny or whatever, but it was a different time.
Oh, it was, very much so.
Yeah, so that was Artie Johnson. Now the lady in the center that we're looking at, her name was J.P. Morgan. She was a famous comedian too. Very, very funny comedian. And what was interesting about this show was that a lot of the movie stars of the past would do like regular appearances, judging the acts that would come on and stuff like that. And finally, on the right of the screen, that is Jamie Farr, best known for playing Klinger on MASH, the MASH television show. He was a regular on the Gong Show during that time. And this young lady here, she was like what Vanna White is to Pat Sajak on Wheel of Fortune. She kind of helped keep order and maybe point systems and things like that. So it was just a lot of fun. But see, that was such a clean show.
Yep.
In fact, all those shows in that era were very clean in comparison to some of the shows
I know.
today. But I just wanted to let the television audience have a idea of the synopsis. So I think this is a perfect tribute to Chuck Barris to be on the set of his show. Now, Chuck Barris created this show, and he wasn't what you would call an actor.
Yeah.
He was more of a creator of television shows and a host. And he hosted this show, the Gong Show that we're on. And so week after week, ordinary people, they weren't like necessarily professional people.
Right,
when you watch The Voice. And they weren't like virtuosos necessarily, but it was fun. They just had ordinary people on the show that, like elderly people, a band, a comedian, and they would just get a couple of minutes on the air to do their thing.
I would have loved to have been on the Gong Show, to have been telling my surreal jokes and hitting my head. I probably would have gotten gonged, but I don't care. It's the fun of it. You know?
See, and that's what it was. It was a fun show. So if the stars liked you, they'd give you points.
Yeah.
And then if they didn't like you, they'd take this big Chinese gong, they would gong you. So, you can fulfill a dream right now. Well, since we're on the Gong Show, why don't you tell a joke on the Gong Show?
There were these two washing machines, and they saw a hat in their way. One said to the other, "Is that in your way?" And the other said, "No, it's in your way, and it's blocking my view." Ha ha ha! Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah, that's something that the Gong Show would have done.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have like as I stated, the acts of the caliber like on a show like The Voice, obviously. But see, that's what made this show fun. That's what made the Gong Show fun. Was that they would they'd have children on. They would have, it was just like I don't want to say vaudeville. I don't know if that's the right word.
I think vaudeville is very right.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that they just had fun musical acts.
Yeah.
And it was such a delight.
Yeah.
I mean, Chuck Barris brought a lot of joy and delight to people because these were ordinary people.
Yes.
You know, and it was fun.
It was.
And it was always fun watching whoever the stars would be week after week.
Yeah, it was.
Now, Jamie Farr was one of the regular stars, and so was J.P. Morgan, but they had other people like Steve Garvey, the baseball great. Do you remember him?
Well, no, I don't.
Well, you know, we got to remember, we're talking about people from the past, not, you know.
Yeah, I never really watched baseball, so.
So he would be, like, on there, too. Let's see, let me play a song.
Oh, yeah, Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Now I remember, yep. Was he a baseball star, or did he wrote the song?
He was a baseball star.
Yeah, I remember that song.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Steve Garvey was a famous baseball player. I think he was a catcher, but don't quote me on that.
Mm-hmm.
But he would appear on there, and then they had other people from the past television shows that you see on MeTV now.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, the shows were on regular television, and they would appear as panelists, I guess, is the way to describe it.
Exactly.
And this set was the set of the Gong Show. And see the gong in the middle?
Yeah.
One of those stars, if they didn't like, would take the gong and hit the gong that's in the backdrop there. And so on. And you can see the sign on the far right over Chuck Barris.
Yep, the Gong Show,
Gong Show. And I wish this image could be a little bit more clear, but at least this gives the television audience an idea of what this show was like. And so I'm kind of, it's kind of like fulfilling a dream for me.
Yeah.
Because when the Gong Show was in its heyday, I was too young to actually be on it. So in a small way, I can say that I'm on the Gong Show, and of course you're on the Gong Show, and Asaph Cafe is on the Gong Show. And as silly as this show is, it probably would fit something like the Gong Show here.
Actually, I was 10 years old when I started watching the Gong Show. You would have been about 20 or 18, so you would have been able to be on the Gong Show, I think.
Well, I don't know. I don't remember. I'm talking about when it first came out. I might have been a little bit younger.
Yeah.
But, I was still in school, too.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's no way I could have, gone to Hollywood.
True, yeah.
And,
True.
Been on the Gong Show. But this is the next best thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a perfect tribute. I couldn't think of a better person than you to do this tribute. And now let's talk about a few other things about Chuck Barris.
One thing I'd like to just jump in. For a while in 1985, they had reruns of the Gong Show here in Missoula on regular TV. And my favorite thing, what I just love to do, after school, after going to Sentinel High School, come home, I just made it right in time for the Gong Show, 3:30. And I got right in front of the TV and watched the Gong Show daily. It was daily on for a half hour, Monday through Friday at 3:30. So a big treat after going to Sentinel, and was to watch the Gong Show until 4, and then I'd have my cup of coffee, and then do some chores, and then start doing my homework. So I'm listening to easy listening like this, and studying criminology. So that was perfect,
Yeah. Stop right here. I'm gonna stop on that note. But anyway, this is neat to pay tribute to Chuck Barris because we just lost him about a week or so ago.
We did? Chuck Barris? We did lose him. I did not know this.
Yeah, it was on the world news. And,
I didn't see that. Rats.
Well, you're probably asleep around that time. And I usually stay up till 1 or 2 in the morning because when they have the CBS overnight news, it's more thorough.
I see.
It's more thorough than the 5 o'clock news.
Oh, okay.
But they mentioned his homegoing on the CBS evening news as well as the overnight morning news. And they were showing clips of the Gong Show.
Yeah. Who knows what I was dreaming about.
But he left the world just a lot of joy.
He did. How old was he when he passed away?
Gosh, I think he was 87, 80.
Wow, amazing,
like that, somewhere up in there. And Gene the Dancing Machine was 87 or so when we lost him.
Yeah.
But you got to remember that these people were younger then. And they were kind of more in their heyday. And with this show. And another tribute I want to pay to Chuck Barris. He created some other television shows, even if he wasn't on camera or hosting them. He only hosted this Gong Show, which I think was perfect for it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, there was a game called the Dating Game,
Mm-hmm.
and it went something like this. Hold on. You don't recognize that melody?
No?
Well, that was a kind of a primitive attempt to play that, but that was the melody to... Oh, I'm sorry. Not the dating game. Let me try it again. Let's try this melody again. Here it is. Hold on. I'll get it. I don't know how to play that, but it had a melody that was something like this. Well, I don't know how to play that, but that was the theme to the dating game. The guy that hosted that was a guy named Jim Lang.
Mm-hmm.
And what it was is sometimes famous people of the past, like say Farrah Fawcett, she was best known for a television show called Charlie's Angels.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when they were young, just first breaking into Hollywood, they would appear on the dating game and actually go out on a date. Michael Jackson when he was young, or whoever. These stars would appear on the dating game. And it was just cute and fun. And what it was is Jim Lang would ask questions. There would be the lady sitting on one side here, and then they would have the 3 contestants that were competing for a date, and they have a wall. So the lady couldn't see who the 3 guys were, and the 3 guys couldn't see who the lady was. And so the lady would ask questions, and whoever questions she liked the best, she'd pick this person, and then they would send them out on an actual date, like to Canada or Hawaii or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was chaperoned. The whole thing was chaperoned at that time, and it was just clean and fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that was one of Chuck Barris's creations, and I think the older television audience will remember the dating game.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it would have ordinary people like accountants, bankers, and it was just a fun weekly show. Now that other song that I did, this one here, that was the Newlywed Game. That was the thing to the dating game.
Mm-hmm.
That was hosted by a guy named, if I can remember his name, Bob Eubanks. He was sort of like Bob Barker with The Price is Right. And what they would do is they would have married couples in real life, people who were married less than 2 years in real life. And it would be like 3 couples sitting, you know, behind a little panel desk. And then Bob Eubanks would just ask them questions like, what color are your husband's eyes? Or, you know, some fun thing like that. Or what is his favorite TV show or something like that. And whoever got the most points went on a little vacation trip for their honeymoon.
Oh, interesting.
So that was the Newlywed Game. And it was just a fun, simple show. But Chuck Barris created that show. And then another show that he created that I talked about briefly in the past was a show called the $1.98 Beauty Pageant. And what was interesting about this is they didn't have all the beautiful model types, you know, like the types that you see in the pageants today. They were ordinary people like elderly, grandmas, college students, housewives. And what they would do is they would have a little ramp within this 20-minute period where each one would walk out like in a nice dress or something like that. And Rip Taylor was the host. He was a famous comedian. And so what they would do is they would ask questions, you know, like, it could be a math question, it could be a history question, it could be, you know, because it was a pageant related, or some fun television show kind of thing. And then at the end of the show, whoever won, they actually got a crown on their head. And they would have graffiti come down, whoever won the pageant, like if the movie stars picked the winner for that particular week. And they would actually write a check for $1.98. And that's what was so fun. It was a real giant check for $1.98. And then getting back to the Gong Show, whoever won got a check for $516.32.
Yeah.
And it was just so funny because that's an outrageous figure.
Yeah.
Why 516 and 32 cents, you know? But you got to remember, 40, 50 years ago, if you had $500, that was considered a lot of money then.
It was.
So that would probably be equivalent to, say, maybe 2,000, 3,000. But all those shows were a lot of fun, you know? They were just fun shows. And so that's why I wanted to talk about these shows and have our secret ingredient.
Definitely.
On the Gong Show.
Definitely.
And of course, you and I will never actually be on the Gong Show
No.
in its heyday because we were a little bit too young. And of course, that whole generation is pretty much gone now too. So we can just have fun and on Asaph Cafe and pretend we're on the Gong Show for today and have fun. Now, changing the subject here, night and day. I normally don't watch soap operas, but I want to bring this up because I want to. The question is, what would you do if you were in this situation? And they were focusing on the forgiveness aspect of this. Now, I saw this scene just yesterday, so I wanted to lay this synopsis for you, the television audience, and see what you would do. Now, before we say what you would do, let me tell you what was going on. Now, I don't know this show very well because I've never actually watched it.
Nor have I,
And I normally don't watch soap operas. I had it on because, you know, usually when I'm at home practicing the piano, I'll have the television on in the background to keep track of time. So there was a soap opera called The Bold and the Beautiful that was on yesterday when I was practicing. And basically what it is they own a company called Forrester. It's like this big dynasty. It's a clothing factory, you know, where they have like fashion model dresses and stuff. That's the name of this company. They produce clothing. They have a clothing line. And so there was this lady, and her name is Brooke. Beautiful, attractive, blonde hair lady. She's about to get married to a guy named Ridge. And so the people at the clothing factory, you know, like the presidents and stuff, family members, they all flew to Australia to have this wedding. So it was the bride and the groom, which is, you'll see where I'm going with this. Brooke and Ridge, they're going to get married, right? And so it was Ridge's father and his wife. Now, Ridge's father's an elderly guy. He's the matriarch of the Forrester company. And he's married to this really young, like 30-year age difference. He's married to this really young woman. But the young woman is attracted to Ridge, even though Ridge is about to be married. So here's where the synopsis came in. Ridge, even though he's about to get married, he was kissing his father's wife. And so his fiance saw them make it out. And so then she confronts the wife of Ridge's father first, secretly. And then she went off on Ridge. Said, how can you do this to me? We're about to get married, and you out there making out with your father's wife. Because they were attracted to each other. You know how soap operas are. Because there's an age difference between. Now, here's where I'm going with this. When that father finds out, because at the end of the episode, she said she didn't want to marry this guy because she felt betrayed, which I can understand. But how do you explain that? See, they're at the point where they're going to have to explain this. And so, getting back to the forgiveness thing, the wife says, it'll never happen again, right? And so she says, please don't tell my husband. Please don't tell Ridge's father. Because it'll set off a chain reaction, everybody being hurt, including the people back in the States that are rooting for this wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, what would you do if you were in a situation like that? Would you forgive and just let sleeping dogs lie and just go on and marry the guy or girl, whatever, turn tables? Or would you just let the cat out of the bag and see what happens?
No, I don't think I'd let the cat out of the bag.
That's
but
the dilemma.
I would warn this person, my future wife, or when you do this again, this is not going to ever happen again.
Yeah, that's what they did yesterday. The blonde-haired lady that was going to get married, she tells the wife, don't you ever come near him ever again. So she sent him out. But then she wasn't finished. Because after she sent the lady out, the wife out, then she goes off on her fiancé that she was about to marry. How could you do this to me? Kissing another woman, see? But then she said at the end of the program that she didn't want to get married because she felt so hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So even though she says she's not going to tell anybody, if they don't get married, the secret's going to come out anyway eventually.
Good point, yeah.
So it's just food for thought.
It is interesting, yeah.
Now, I know this is just a soap opera and it's not real.
It's interesting.
But it just,
these things can happen in real life.
I know, and I realize that, but it's just a question. What would you do if you were in that situation?
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to cause any more scandal,
Right, I know, and I realize that, but even by Brooke not wanting to get married, it's going to cause curiosity. Well, why does she not want to marry? And then the truth is going to eventually come out because her fiancé was kissing the wife of his father. And then when that father finds out, he's going to be devastated.
I'd make a cover story.
So I don't know. It's one of those gray areas.
Yeah,
I know
it
this is just a television show.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious when I looked at it yesterday because I was curious where the writers of the show were going to go. And you got to remember, this is fictitious. It's not real. But the plot line is why I wanted to bring this up. What would you do if you were in that situation for real?
Mm-hmm.
If you were about to get married and you saw your fiance kissing another guy, would you keep that quiet and say, don't ever come near him again? Or would you tell the story and then it would just hurt so many people in the process, like families over in the States because they're in Australia. So it's just one of those gray area topics, you know. I'm going to play night and day. It's just one of those gray area topics,
Yeah.
And like as I stated, it's a television show,
Yeah.
But can you imagine how painful that would be?
I know, yeah.
If that were real?
Yeah.
And when I was watching that yesterday, I was just thinking the best way to handle that is not get into a situation like that in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stop right here.
Mm-hmm.
But see, the thing is, when you talk about marriage and the sanctity of marriage, that's a beautiful concept that God created.
Yes.
And when you talk about sex, people get all uncomfortable, but God is the creator of sex.
He is, and within marriage.
Yeah, I was
going
to lead up to that. Yes. Yeah, God created this beautiful gift, and He set these guidelines, these boundaries within marriage between a man and a woman. And I know we live in a culture where people get their nose all bent out of shape when you say that, but that's the original concept. And leading back to this soap opera, the way to avoid a situation like what they're in is not to stray, even if you're engaged. But this is food for thought. I'm not here to convert nobody.
Right.
It's just food for thought. And I think that, and I've heard ministers say that God is not being a killjoy.
Yeah.
When He has these boundaries. They're emotional boundaries. They're healthy for you emotionally. Like you won't get into a situation like this soap opera and got to explain, or you won't have to deal with the emotional pain, the emotional scars, the emotional hurts if you stay within the boundaries of your relationship, especially marriage. I'm talking now.
Yeah.
I'm specifically talking marriage. When you say I do, stay within those boundaries.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know that sounds archaic by today's standards. It does. Because when you watch soap operas, everybody's doing a wild thing and they're not married. People do that in real life. But no, if you stay in the boundaries, you won't have to be worrying about situations like this soap opera I was talking about just yesterday. Now, I'm not going to get in the habit of watching this, but I just happened to catch that. And I thought that that what would you do would be something worth talking about in today's cafe, just for food for thought,
Yeah, definitely.
Just for food for thought. Now, getting back to the tribute here, having fun, and a lot of time has gone by.
Really?
Almost a half hour's gone by already.
I love these sun ships.
Yeah, they're very good. And I like the secret ingredients too. But anyway, I don't know where the writers will go with that because I'm not going to continue to watch that. But it's a soap opera. No telling what's going to happen. They'll probably have it where the father will find out and kill himself or some crazy thing. You know how soap operas are. They just kind of go all wild. But that's soap operas for you.
Yeah, it is.
But anyway, getting back to our tribute here, you want to tell some more surreal jokes or anything while we're on the Gong Show?
Let's
I'll
see.
play that.
There were these two vacuum cleaners, and they saw a coffee cup. And they started splashing around in the coffee cup. And then this one dryer came along and said, "Oh, I can't see around that." So he went to the other side of the room and started screaming about algebraic equations. Ha ha ha! Isn't that hilarious?
So anyway, I know what I was going to tell you. Do you know what a limerick is?
No.
A limerick is a story that rhymes. Like when you're telling a story or a joke or you're telling a story, it rhymes. So I'm not a comedian or anything, so I'm gonna do a limerick here, and that would be perfect for the Gong Show. There was an old lady from Worcester who was often annoyed by a rooster. She cut off his head until he was dead. Now he can't crow like he used to.
Hilarious.
That's called a limerick.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, I'm not a comedian, as you can see.
Yeah.
But I just thought that's the kind of joke that they would tell on
They
the Gong
would.
Show, that's the kind of joke. Let's see if I can think of another joke. I'm not really a jokester.
That's why I love surreal jokes. They're so bizarre. No one has ever thought of them but me, I don't think. Maybe someone else.
Yeah.
Maybe a surrealist in the 18th century thought of them. There was some. I have a book on the poetry of surrealism at home because I love surrealism and just real life. I love surrealism. If everyone's heard about the concept. Yeah, and I had a lot of surreal poetry and some at home. An anthology of it, and they had kind of a few humorous things.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, they just had a few humorous stuff, like Mr. Umbrella went somewhere else, or someone might have a wallpaper, unless it's a frog paper. And the thing is, has anyone heard of Salvador Dali and the Surrealists, or just Surrealism in the 18th century? It was an actual movement. My only problem with it, a lot of the first Surrealists were communists. I didn't like that part. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But surrealism, like the painters like Salvador Dali, they wondered if we could improve man by having a form of art that would combine dreams and reality into a super realism. A surrealism to bring dreams and waking things together, so they would even just fall asleep for a bit, and then try and wake up half asleep, half, awake, and write a whole bunch of strange stuff. Like Salvador Dali was a painter. He would have watches that would melt. He would have eyes like, on a ceiling, or just some of the things were really bizarre. Like, I have one of his paintings at home I just got from a calendar. It was very dreamlike. I mean, surrealism had a very surreal, dreamlike quality. That's where you get the word surreal.
Yeah.
There was this table just like this in the middle of a desert. Someone had rowed their boat onto the desert sand. And there was one person kind of looked like a shadow or something, and they were having tea, but there was no tea in the teacups.
Okay.
I mean, how do you get that kind of genius? You have a boat, you rowed to shore because it was all desert though, it was all desert sand. And, some weird stuff over here, or maybe they would have, I don't know. I saw a big show on it back years ago when I was in junior high. It was on PBS and I loved it. Stuff like, you could run and leap buildings. But then you would see this huge clock, and it's getting bigger and bigger. His hands going faster and faster. I just loved that stuff. I love surrealism.
Yeah. I guess the Gong Show or something, they would do something like that.
They would. But the early surrealists did write surreal poetry.
I see.
I mean, the bizarrest stuff. I mean, maybe I ought to bring it next week and read you some. But some of the stories, if I could remember. Oh yes. Here's one interesting thing. It was pretty. I don't know why I just thought of this, but the guy slipped the army sergeant slipped his cap into the cage and took out a bird and put his bird on his head. A bird on his head. He met his other sergeant and he said, "You forgot to salute." And the bird said, "There is no more saluting." And the sergeant said, "Oh, I didn't know that." And then the bird said, "That's all right. Everyone makes mistakes," says the bird. Then another one was incredible. I think it's a painting on how to catch a bird in a painting. First, you paint the trees and the forest and everything. But then you hide behind a tree. You're in a forest. You had to hide behind a tree and wait 1,000 years. Now, the bird might fly into the picture, but if it doesn't fly into the picture, it's bad, because it means the painting was bad. But once, after 1,000 years, the bird flies into your painting, you paint some bars after 1,000 years, then you sign your name to the bottom of the picture. Now, isn't that surreal? Wow, what a concept! Who would think of such genius like that? But yeah.
Do you know this song?
No, I don't.
Do it again. You don't recognize it? It fits in what we're talking about. Mighty Mouse.
Oh yeah. But I love surrealism and stuff like that. Was incredible. Let's see. Oh, there was an incredible one now, I remember. It was poetry of surrealism. The Troilian elephant and the rubber grandmother. There was this Troilian elephant and a rubber grandmother. They were banging on the piano of death. They banged and banged and banged and smashed it. And then they made little things of clouds out of it, made coronations for flies, and made parties for gnats and other tiny insects. And the grandmother smoked a cigar as grand as a grandmother. And when she did that, there was this giant mushroom that went all over the place and was fun matter. "Don't you have anything else in your mouth?" Now, the Troilian elephant was very diplomatic. All he said was honk, honk, honk. But then the rubber grandmother threw this mushroom into, because the rubber grandmother was disappointed, the rubber grandmother threw this giant mushroom into a pile of ink, and she started squeaking, "Marmalade, marmalade, all this marmalade." Only a whole entire United States Navy dumped into a bowl of sugary milk can undo the majesty of this incredible dance. I mean, wow! Now that, I don't even know what Troilian is. What is Troilian? Is it a metal? I think it's like a metal elephant and a rubber grandmother, but how do you get like this, banging on the piano of death? It's so surreal. That's very imaginative. I love stuff like that.
That's the nocturne in F sharp that I'm playing while you're talking.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop right there. And another thing I wanted to talk to you about that won't fit in, when we're talking about Lymricks. Boy, time is going by really fast. It's so fun.
How much is the time?
Well, we got about 15 minutes left.
Wow, good. 15.
Yeah, it's just going by really quick. Actually, more like 10 minutes left. But anyway, getting back to those Limericks, those rhyming stories, that's something that we do on the Gong Show.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember children's stories?
Oh, very much so. I have many at home.
Do you know the one about the little old lady that swallowed the fly?
No.
I'm going to demonstrate that for you. Now, I'm not a singer, so I'm just going to play a chord while I'm doing it. It goes something like this. There was an old lady who swallowed a fly. I don't know why she swallowed a fly. I guess she'll die. That's the first line.
Yep.
I know an old lady who swallowed a fly. I don't know why she swallowed the fly. She swallowed this. And then she says, No, let me say it again. The second verse. I know an old lady who swallowed a spider. I don't know why she swallowed the spider.
Mm-hmm.
She swallowed the spider to catch the fly, but I don't know why she swallowed the fly.
Mm-hmm.
I guess she'll die. I'm leading up to something.
Yeah.
And then here's another one. I know an old lady who swallowed a bird. I don't know why she swallowed the bird. She swallowed the bird to catch the spider that wiggled and tickled inside her.
Mm-hmm.
You remember? You know that?
No, I don't.
See, each time this lady she's eating more. You'll see where this is leading. And this is a children's story.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, they used to tell this in grade school.
Mm-hmm.
So first she swallows the fly, then she swallows the spider, who wiggled and tickled inside her. Then she swallows the bird to catch the spider, to catch the fly. Did you catch that?
Mm-hmm.
I'll do that verse again. I know an old lady who swallowed a bird. I don't know why she swallowed the bird. She swallowed the bird to catch the spider that wiggled and tickled inside her.
Mm-hmm.
She swallowed the spider to catch the fly, but I don't know why she swallowed the fly. I'll guess she'll die. Then the next verse. I know an old lady who swallowed a dog. I don't know why she swallowed the dog. She swallowed the dog to catch the cat. She swallowed the cat to catch the bird. She swallowed the bird to catch the spider that wiggled and tickled inside her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why she swallowed the fly.
Yeah.
I guess she'll die. And then the final verse is kind of disgusting. I know an old lady who'd swallowed a horse. She's dead, of course.
Yeah.
You never heard that, huh?
You know, I think I might have. A friend of mine was telling me about that. Now,
that was something. Yeah, that's something they would do on the Gong Show. Can you imagine someone up there singing that children's song on the show? Now, of course, if you were on The Voice, you could never do that.
Yeah.
You could never get on The Voice and sing a children's song, but on this show here, you could. You know, it was just. So
and I think the moral about that was, you can compound your problems by making even more, by trying to solve problems, and you can do it in a stupider way, and you need real problems then, to cure one little thing, and you can really do some stupid stuff. I've known people that have done that. I was like, what in the heck, yeah.
So anyway, like I said, I'm no singer. That was just a children's song that, and there were some other children's songs that they did when I was a kid, like,
No, I never cared for that. Yeah, the Hokey, Pokey. I never cared for that. Kind of bored me.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard it many times, yeah.
Yeah, the Hokey Pokey.
Never cared for that.
How about Georgy, Porgy?
No.
You remember that one? Georgy, Porgy, putting in pie, kissed the girls and made them cry. When the boys came out to play, Georgy, Porgy ran away.
Never heard of that one either. Fascinating.
Well, that's another one that they would do on the Gong Show. It's just that silly.
Exactly.
And that's why I'm bringing all this up here. It was just, that show was so fun. And
it was.
Just get on there and just be silly.
Mm-hmm.
And with me, like singing that one about the lady, eat, swallow the fly, you might end up winning that $516.
You might.
Doing some silly thing like that. But see, the thing with this show is, it was just, they just were having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Just silly. Just silly antics.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it worked at the time.
Mm-hmm. It did.
And of course, it would probably be considered so corny and outdated by today's standards of entertainment, but in his time, Chuck Barris brought a lot of joy to the world.
He did.
He really did, and it was fun. And it was always fun watching the couples on a Newlywed game go on an actual trip like to Hawaii or overseas, at the end of the...
Yeah.
And it's just...
just briefly in the 5 minutes, something I wanted to talk about just briefly.
Sure.
Can you believe how much blessings we've had from the gift of television? Television has opened up a whole bunch of entertainment. I mean, it's done some bad things. There have been some immoral television programs, and I will admit that it needs spiritual monitoring. But it has brought so much goodness. I don't know what we would have done without television.
I think it's like anything else, it depends on how you handle it,
It does,
But I agree with you.
I love books and I love radio, but television has just opened up entertainment and to do something at home when you don't know what to do. I mean, it's one thing to do important stuff and that's read your Bible and pray. That's very, very important.
Yeah.
But if you can balance out with a modern amount of television like the Gong Show, it has been a blessing. Television.
Well, you know the history of television, don't you? Well, before television, they have what was called these radio broadcasts.
Yes, I do remember that.
Because my birth mom said that when she was a little girl, there was no such thing as television back then.
Yes.
So what they would do is the families would hover in front of the radio.
Yes.
And they would have programs like the Green Hornet, Fibber McGee and Molly, the Shadow Nose.
Yeah, the Shadow
Nose. And what you would do is you would use your imagination when you were sitting in front of the radio listening to these stories. And they had actors for real, like Bob Hope, Lucille Ball, and so on. You know, before television. And they had an actual script that they were reading a script and they were doing these characters on a microphone that people could hear over the radio. And whatever the story was, you used your imagination.
Right.
And it was just such fun. And of course, television came out and changed everything.
Yep.
And what was interesting about television originally, before television, everybody went to the movies. If you wanted to see a Cary Grant movie or a John Wayne movie or whatever it was at the time, they would have families go to the movies. And, you know, it was probably expensive by the standard of that time.
It was, even though that movies would cost a dime and popcorn would cost a nickel in the 1920s and 30s, yes.
Yeah, but you got to remember that their cost of living was so low.
I know.
So you might say a dime's not much, but a dime took you a long way back then.
It did.
Bought you groceries and everything.
It did, yeah.
3 cents or whatever. But see, where I'm going with this is when television came out, a lot of the movie executives in the movie world were opposed to that because now people could watch these stars and not have to pay to go to a movie because they could, you know, see it in the home. And so that was a big roar about it. But, of course, television prevailed.
And, of course, it didn't detract from people going to the movies. People still go to the movies.
Yeah, but it was just a different medium. And, of course, there were some movie stars of the past that had the foresight to jump on the bandwagon
of television,
in its early stage, and of course then their name circulated everywhere because people who didn't go to the movies could watch them at home.
Exactly.
So that's just a bit of trivial history there. I just want to throw out that television changed everything.
It did, and it's a wonderful medium. I love my cable TV. I don't know what I would have done without television. Probably lost my mind.
Well, before that, they only basically had about you might remember this too, that at one time they had like basically 3 channels.
Yeah. And an independent channel.
CBS and NBC originally.
And an independent channel and maybe PBS, so 5 channels.
Yeah.
And if you could pick it up
now
UHF.
It's something like 200 channels. Like they even had what's called a movie channel music channel. You don't have images, it's like a radio. And it'll have a still picture of whoever the artist is.
Yeah, I love that. The music choice channels.
Like
that's how I love the easy listening.
Music, easy listening, classical, jazz.
It's fantastic.
Country.
I love that. I love that. I've talked about that a lot.
24 hours a day.
I've talked about that a lot. And I don't know what I ever did without that because while doing my dishes or whatever, I'll put on easy listening or a smooth jazz channel. That's why they have toddler tunes. They have toddler tunes on that, just the still pictures. And I love toddler tunes. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it was fun. Well, any final words you want to say since we're on the Gong Show? But anyway, before you do, I just wanted to give you, in the television audience, an idea of the Gong Show. And this set obviously looks very primitive in comparison to the sets we have on television today. But you got to remember, this was years and years ago, and it seemed fancy at the time. And this was the original Gong Show, and Chuck Barris on the right of the screen. He's the creator of all these games I mentioned, shows. And it was a fun time. It was a simpler time, fun time.
Yep.
So that's why I wanted to do this tribute. And I wanted to thank you for being part of this tribute.
Certainly.
And I didn't get a chance to tell the television audience, so we'll do the reverse. On my immediate left, affectionately, our aging rocker, Emmett. And he's on the set of the Gong Show with me. And this is like a dream for both of us in a way.
Yeah, definitely. It is.
This is probably the closest to the Gong Show we'll ever actually be on.
Yes.
In a sense. But Asaph Cafe, I might as well tell the TV audience, we're experimenting on the cafe with different backdrops. And when we do our next show in a little bit, we're going to be on the bridge of the Enterprise.
That'll be exciting.
And I'm looking forward to that. I've got the topics all picked out, so it'll be so fun. Let's see. I don't want to try to figure that song out because I'll probably miss it. I'm not talking about the original Star Trek. We're talking about the Next Generation.
Yeah.
We're going to be on the bridge of the Enterprise there. And we're going to be on Jeopardy, and we're going to be on Wheel of Fortune, and
it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
These are future shows, but we wanted to start off these backdrops with the Gong Show and tribute Chuck Barris. Any final words you want to say before we sign out?
Can't think of any. Nope.
No final jokes. No.
Can't think of any. Yep.
All right, let's see if I can think of one other thing here. Any joke? Any No, I can't think of one.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, this will be fun.
Yeah.
Just doing this, and it adds a little freshness to
It does.
to me, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited about the topics we talked about today. It was just fun.
It was, yeah,
And,
absolutely.
You know, hopefully they will show the Gong Show on rerun television history.
One of these days, I hope they do.
Who knows? Maybe they'll start the entire series from the beginning. Excuse me, from this beginning.
That'd be great if they did, yeah.
Yeah. And people are gonna be like, "Oh, how corny!" But you know, it's fun.
I'd be brokenhearted in a way because my VCR doesn't work and I don't have any videotapes to record. I would want to record all of them.
Well, you'd probably have to order it if it's available. And
Yeah, and
wouldn't
I
even know if
tried
it's
to,
available.
and I tried to, and it wasn't available that I know of. It wasn't available, sadly, yeah.
That's probably true. You gotta remember these shows are, what, 40, 50 years old?
Then again, I've never tried ordering it online or anything, so you never know. I don't know how you would get this, yeah.
All right.
But if you had a computer, you can Google up the Gong Show and you'll get something, trust me.
You know,
If you have
there'll
a
be something, yeah. And the younger TV audience can just look it up.
Yep.
Well, this has been fun being on the set of the Gong Show, and this is sort of a dream come true, like I said,
It
for
is.
both of us. So, thank you for watching Asaph Cafe, and until our next show, Maranatha.
Well, even in my life, $516 could go a long way. I could use that, you know.
Yeah, even today, if you
Yeah.
have well, it has to be precise. It's $516.32.
That's right, yeah.
Well, you make yourself at home, and I'll shut everything down. We'll relax, and then we'll go on the bridge of the
Fascinating.
Starship Enterprise and have some fun.
Fascinating.